There is a chapter in Rougemont's Love in the Western World that's predicated on the idea that passion is suffering, and the chivalrous romance finds its root in this unhappy mutual love. The couple doesn't necessarily hold disdain for each other in this state, but the dissatisfaction of not getting what they want from the relationship paradoxically creates a dissolution of the self from the individual suffering. In a modern literary psychoanalysis, one might say, the audience derives pleasure from the act of the couple getting together, and once that's achieved, there's nothing more to explore. It explains why so often in media we never see a serialized or expanded story of a happy couple after a marriage or devoted union, if they're not simply resolved as living happily ever after. Writers must then devolve the relationship and return it to dissatisfaction the couple faced before their union. Rougemont's claim throughout the book posits that the constant drive for pleasure is self-destructive and implicates an endorsement of an Aristotelian idea of a friendship of virtue, later adopted by Christian philosophers into agape. The virtuous couple isn't animated by passions or headlong decisions that could compromise the recognition of the other as a flawed individual, which they are. Unmitigated passions create an idealism that will never be satisfied, as emotions create a constant appetite devoid of reason. The perfect relationship is flawed and messy, and yet true in being the best person for the other. To My Wife Whom I Loved Dearly was one of the first one-shot manga I've ever read, as well as one of the first romances I've dedicated myself to reading repeatedly. It's premised on the cliched terminally ill wife and concurs with the general tone and atmosphere the tropes associated with, yet it strays in the thematic properties of the cliche, as it's not about the death or even the individuals in the relationship. It's a story about the dissatisfaction of the married couple. Rougemont's connection of the romance's erotic component to death, alluded to the foundational romance like Tristan and Isolde myth, explains why the narrative device is utilized in various stories. Along with it physically embodying the passion-induced death drive, the trope offers a dramatic passion that simultaneously offers dissatisfaction and satisfaction in how the narrative will conclude. The reader gets to have their cake and eat it too. A character dies and creates a dissatisfaction with an incomplete or absent couple, but also a satisfaction in the concluding dissolution of the individual acting in the chivalrous romance's telos. Death also allows an anticipated through line our characters can reflect melodramatically or otherwise in a dramatic, melancholic fashion. An audience expects an impassioned one-liner, a stand in the rain, or a character with puffy eyes sitting in a shadow, because that's what they come to expect from the genre and tropes from other media. While not of this category, the film The Last 10 Years line of "The longer I'm with you, the more I fear death" haunts me because of the passion the story wants to convey and does so successfully. But To My Wife Whom I Love Dearly doesn't attempt to portray an exposed passion in the narrative. In fact, it's very subdued. The catharsis conveyed through the one-shot is action corresponding with rational understanding and the sentimental value of the story. The story follows Takahashi reflecting on his wife Chika's final 6 months after a cancer diagnosis. In her final days, she's become harsh towards her husband until Takahashi discovers it to be a lie so that he can accept her death more easily. The two return to as they were before Chika's few remaining days. Suffering to Chika differs from the Tristan mythos, as it's not oriented towards passion and pleasure, but towards self-sacrifice and preserving the mental integrity of her husband. She loves her husband and would like to spend the last few months with him, but understands doing so would cause him suffering and loving memory of her. It's the antithesis of a general romance, where instead of both of them losing their sense of self in each other or a fantasy-esque happily ever after, we have a strict recognition of the self and the other. Takahashi's resolve is to suffer himself in small part, enduring Chika's harsh attitudes and frequently giving her money, which could potentially leave him in slight financial trouble. The telos of their suffering is an expression of the love that they have for each other, because death in the narrative acts as a point of distinction, not unity. After Chika's death, there will only be the other, which Chika recognizes and acts upon by forcing that difference, not knowing that she's exercising Takahashi's unyielding love towards her, even when she's not there. Takahashi embodies an Aristotelian feature of friendship not often shown in most romances, the notion that the practice of friendship, especially the friendship with virtue that marriage encapsulates in Rougemont's criticism, occurs outside the presence of the other. He's aware of his thoughts and emotions, and he slips and wonders when Chika's going to die, but he collects himself and acts physically and mentally in accordance to what he knows is right. When he discovers Chika's lie, the couple can't manage the truth that their love is pure. And in the final scene, when the funeral director is suggesting Takahashi photos for the funeral program, she suggests some where Chika's happy and content, and speaking on behalf of a woman. But Takahashi suggests this one where they're both visibly upset and awkward with tears in both their eyes. This is who we were. The virtue of their friendship was in the acknowledgement of their flaws, and that the other would have done anything to mend their faults. The photo could have been taken at any moment in their relationship, because Chika's cancer wasn't the stoppage of their friendship, nor was her death, because Takahashi is still alive, and capable of being a friend to her, even when she's no longer around. He loved her truly when she was living, but whether he'll continue to love her is the true test of this ideal romance Rougemont's documented about. I think he will. It's spelled plainly in their final photo together. Quiet, subdued passions and stifled tears.